With just a $74 ticket, I was able to enjoy an experience as exclusive as a private jet. Today I'm flying on a public service airline that serves America's remote rural areas. On the entire plane, there was only me, another elderly passenger, and two pilots in a semi-open cockpit. This route, which is clearly impossible to turn a profit on, burns through $3.5 million in subsidies from the US Department of Transportation every year. Today, I'm departing from the small town of Makook, known for its robotic film sources, heading to Denver, the only major city within 420 kilometers to the west. Beyond Denver, within a 700-kilometer radius of the town, there isn't a single city with a population over 500,000. To make travel more convenient for residents in these remote areas, in 1978, the U.S. Department of Transportation launched the Essential Air Service Program, paying a certain amount in subsidies to airlines each year to maintain these heavily loss-making routes. What you see here is basically the entirety of Makook's airport terminal. Since there are only 2 flights a day, the ground staff and security only come to work an hour before boarding, and there are no shops or services for travelers around the airport. If you arrive too early, you won't find a single person to talk to. It's like being in solitary confinement. Although parking at such remote airports is free, my return train doesn't arrive in town until midnight, and at that hour, you can't even see a soul in town, let alone find a bus or taxi to take you to the airport to get your car. So, I ended up paying to park my car in the square in front of the train station and booked a ride with the town's little Indian-style shuttle bus to take me to the airport. Actually, this bus is pretty much like a taxi, except it's not very flexible with timing. It only operates from 8 to 5 every day, and you have to call a day in advance to schedule a ride. But the good thing is, the fare is extremely cheap, just $2 flat within the town area. Its main users are local elderly people with limited mobility, so out-of-town visitors like me are a rare sight. Don't be fooled by how small and shabby this airport looks. In fact, in 2024, the U.S. Department of Transportation provided this airport with a subsidy as high as $3,567,084. If you calculate based on 2 flights a day, each flight burns through nearly $5,000 in subsidies, and on my flight, there were only 2 passengers in total. Thinking about it this way, even though I paid $75 for my ticket, I actually used up $2,443 in subsidies. After all, this airport is staffed with 4 security officers and 3 ground crew, while there were only 2 passengers. Since after September 11th, airport security officers in the US are all federal employees, it wasn't really convenient for me to film, but each of them was very friendly. After all, their job is pretty relaxed. Once they finished screening the 2 of us, everyone could start chatting happily. This job is considered a government position, and both the salary and benefits are quite good. Thinking about it, it really does seem pretty easy. If I had such a laid-back job, I'd probably feel pretty happy too. According to them, the passenger flow is a bit higher in the morning, averaging about 6 or 7 people. In the afternoon, there are usually just 2 or 3 people, most of whom are connecting to other flights, then heading elsewhere. The gentleman traveling with me lives in Texas, but he runs a cattle ranch near Makook. He flies here often, so he's gotten to know all the TSA staff quite well. The plane I'm flying today, the Fairchild Metroliner 23, is considered very niche. Now, the only 4 remaining passenger planes of this model all belong to the airline I'm flying with today, Key Lime Air. This company is not very well known, mainly because its core business is serving the small, out-of-the-way airports around Denver. Most of their revenue actually comes from subsidies provided by the U.S. Department of Transportation. This old model from the 1990s wasn't even designed with a cockpit security door, so in theory, you could really pull off a GTA-style hijacking in the air. Besides that, this plane doesn't have any flight attendants or a restroom. If you want to try this experience, I recommend using the bathroom at the airport beforehand. If you get diarrhea in the air, you'll be in real trouble. Another thing is that the seats on this plane are extremely spacious. When this airliner was originally designed, it was meant to carry 18 passengers. But since the U.S. Department of Transportation has much looser regulations for planes with 9 seats or fewer, and because there really aren't that many passengers, 70 Airlines removed half of the seats and turned it into a 9-seat airliner. This way, the requirements from the U.S. aviation authorities for pilots and aircraft maintenance can be significantly reduced. In other words, this plane isn't actually particularly safe, but so far there haven't been any major accidents, and in the end we landed safely as well. Having this kind of unique first-person experience of flying a plane is still pretty cool.
Alright folks, welcome to Denver. Give me just a moment. I'm going to open up the cabin door here. I'll let you know when it's safe to get off. Thanks for flying with us.
Another thing is that the turboprop engine on this plane is very close to the cabin door, making it extremely noisy. Plus, the sound insulation on these old planes is really poor, so the regulars who always fly this route bring their own earplugs. Naturally, these mini regional jets don't have jet bridges either. After getting off the plane, you have to walk a short distance on the tarmac. All these subsidized regional jets are parked at the northeasternmost gates of Denver Airport, where there's also an observation deck. Looking down, you can see a row of various models of regional jets, which are truly tiny compared to mainstream aircraft. And coming from Makook Airport to the major hub of Denver really does feel like a country bumpkin entering the big city. Although I arrived in Denver before 5 o'clock, there were already no more flights back to Makook. If I wanted to return, there was still a train departing at 7, so I had to hurry and take the light rail to the downtown train station. Even though Denver's rail stations don't have ticket gates, there were still quite a few people lining up in an orderly fashion to buy tickets at the airport station's ticket machines. This is still very different from the prevailing attitude toward public transportation in the US these days. The fare from the airport to the train station, a distance of 30 kilometers, is $10. If you think it's worth it, give it a 1. If not, give it a 2. As we were about to enter the downtown area, I even ran into a ticket inspector catching fare evaders, but compared to their European counterparts, they're much gentler. Their approach is mainly to persuade and educate. If it were a ticket inspector in France or Germany, they would corner you against the wall and demand your ID and a fine. Now, what I have here is Denver's train station. Although this station was once very glorious in history, passenger rail in the US has long since declined. Nowadays, there's only one train a day. The California Zephyr passes through here. This old train station now feels more like a nicely renovated small shopping center with lots of restaurants and shops inside. When I visited, it was just about to be Halloween. Many people were dressed in all sorts of costumes, and today Amtrak very rarely arrived at Denver Station on time. Since 97% of the railroad mileage in the US is now controlled by freight rail companies, long-distance passenger trains like the California Zephyr, which connects Chicago to Los Angeles, have a very low status. Not only do they have to pay a fee to the freight rail companies to use the tracks, but they also have to follow their scheduling. Denver is the most important stopover for preparations on this train, which has a total scheduled runtime of 51.5 hours. Here you can see the crew changing shifts, restocking the dining car, and unloading trash from the train. Operating such long-distance railways is also very costly. Even though a short 4-hour journey costs $40, the daily ticket revenue only covers half of the operating costs. The most popular section of this train is the stretch from Salt Lake City to Denver, which crosses the Rocky Mountains. Many people take the train mainly for sightseeing rather than for actual transportation needs. The middle section of this train even has panoramic skylights, making it easier for everyone to enjoy the scenery. However, after passing Denver, the next 20 hours are just endless plains, without passing through any major cities. It's extremely boring, and there's nothing much to see. Amtrak thoughtfully schedules this most monotonous rural stretch for nighttime, so after leaving Denver, it's basically pitch black outside, and all the people in the observation car have left. Even so, this train line is the only public transportation option for residents of these rural small towns in the American Midwest. For example, many Amish people who refuse to use modern technology, as well as some elderly people who can't drive, rely on this train more for transportation than for sightseeing. One interesting thing is that Americans are generally quite friendly, and along the way, you'll encounter all sorts of NPCs. I originally wanted to have dinner in the dining car, but by a little after 7, they had already closed for the day. Fortunately, there was a small snack bar downstairs, and I had brought some instant noodles with me. Although there was a microwave on the train, you couldn't use it to heat up outside food, but you could ask the attendant for some free hot water. I had just started making my noodles, and they hadn't even softened yet when a lady came over and sat across from me, striking up a conversation. She was taking the entire 2.5-day journey from California to Chicago.
It's not too bad. It's just you meet a lot of people. It's a couple of us. We kind of been riding together.
You better. Dog.
The prices in the dining car aren't too outrageous either. For example, this bagel only cost $3. By 8 or 9 o'clock, most of the passengers had already gone to sleep. The seats here are actually quite spacious, almost like a sofa, and if that's not enough, there are plenty of empty seats in the observation car and the dining car where you can lie down as well. Maybe it's because I kept moving between different cars, plus the crew was changing shifts when I boarded in Denver. I spent most of my time sitting next to this bar, and no one came by until it was almost time to get off. When the ticket check was about to happen and I saw that no crew member came to open the door, I realized how serious the problem was. Later, I asked them about this car, and it turned out I was the only one getting off at this small town of Makook. They even thought I had missed the train and didn't get on. If it weren't for a few people getting on at Makook, it's possible the train might not have stopped at all, and just kept going.
I don't know the route well enough yet where I can look out the window and say exactly where we are.
Okay.
So, we're still 2-ish miles away. We're
gonna come up to the Makook Walmart here in just a second. And you're gonna see a bunch of lights. Yeah.
These two white guys are both pretty cute. They start their 8-hour shift from Denver, switch shifts at Lincoln, the capital of Nebraska where Makook is located, and then take the same train back to Denver the next night. Only 7 people boarded at the small Makook station. At its peak, this place used to be quite an important locomotive depot, but now, once the only train of the day leaves, the town returns to its midnight silence. This also made the elderly man dragging his suitcase by the train station in the middle of the night stand out even more. After asking, it seemed like the guy might have gotten off at the wrong stop.
There's no cab here?
No.
Do you have a transportation? I'd pay you to give me a ride to the first motel.
Okay, let's go.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I got mixed up. I come in here the other day.
Okay.
But it didn't look like this. I must have been on the other side.
The old man might be suffering from a bit of dementia. When I was editing the video and reviewing what happened, combined with what the train attendant said, I realized I was the only passenger who got off at this station. My guess is that because the old man had lived in Makook for a long time, he habitually got off here. In the past, when this place was thriving, there were quite a few travelers and even taxis available in the middle of the night. But now coming back to Makook, he found that the town had changed a lot.
Dying. There's no work here, no economy. This hotel I used to stay in was up here on the left, but it closed. Yeah, a lot of places are closing down.
In the end, I also helped the old man find a hotel smoothly. Not only did I not take any money from him, but I also helped him carry his luggage inside. I did everything I could, so all I can do now is wish him good luck. After helping the old man, I returned to the town center to show everyone this small town train station. To put it simply, it's an unattended waiting room inside, and it really has a vintage feel. Winters in Makook are extremely cold, but this little room not only has heating, it also has a restroom. If it were in a big city, it would actually be quite suitable for people like me who are homeless to get by for a night. Also, since Makook is located at the junction of 2 time zones in the US, there are 2 clocks hanging on the bridge above. Just like the old man said, there's really not much left in Makook. In the middle of the night, the only shop still open on the main street in front of the train station is this little diner right in front of me. The atmosphere inside is pretty nice, and everyone is very friendly. Traveling by public transportation in Jiabegu leads to all kinds of unexpected encounters. If you enjoy this series, remember to like, comment, and follow. Alright, that's it for this video. Follow me, and I'll take you to explore more places that ordinary people wouldn't usually go.